What's up, everybody? Ninja Nick here with Tactical Gaming, bringing you guys another video. Now, this one is from Ken Buck. He confronts ATF director about what they've been doing and, everything else. He gives him a great history lesson on the Magna Carta, the importance of the Magna Carta, the importance of the multiple branches of the United States and why we need them and everything else, considering this isn't a communist country. There isn't one dictator. There isn't one person whose voice is more important than everyone else. So we shall get into this.
One thing to the gentlelady from Texas, I am not in favor of abolishing the ATF.
Which I don't agree with. We need to abolish them. We need to abolish them. They were important at one point in time, much like every other agency we have. They were important at one point in time. But any agency that gets weaponized by the federal government and goes after the United States citizens, the people who make sure that they get paid, because if it's not for our tax dollars, all these state agencies would not exist. So, why is it we the people continuously allow this to happen? Which is where we the people need to demand, and I mean, we need to come together. We need to literally get a petition together in every single state, and sign and say the ATF, the FBI, and every other state agency as well as federal agency that is weaponized to go after the American people needs to be abolished, and then every individual who's a part needs to be investigated and then thrown in prison. Plain and simple. Because they are just overusing their power.
Increasing the number of 922 G1 felon in possession cases in the last few years. I think it's absolutely essential that.
Also, the only reason why that's happened is because also at the same time, in all these blue states and blue cities, they decriminalized a buttload of, things. And I can't even say decriminalize. It's more of they told cops, just don't arrest people. Like, you just don't do your job, which is why a lot of cops quit their jobs. And there was a slew of other reasons, but being told by your state representatives and your leaders that, yeah, we're not really going to throw people in jail. That literally makes them go, why am I arresting people? Right? So, because of crime skyrocketing, that statement makes no sense. Come on. Yeah, crime skyrocketed because police aren't allowed to actually police no more.
ATF stay focused on its mission, and that is to help local police make this country safer by actually taking guns away from dangerous, violent felons.
That's the purpose, but that's not what they do.
End our commonality, but it starts in a good place. And I think ATF, I've worked with ATF for 25 years as a prosecutor, have a great deal of respect for the men and women who work on the streets in our country, making this country safer.
That's the police.
If we stay focused.
That's the police.
On violent criminals, we could reduce the crime, especially in urban America, where it is so dangerous. And so, thank you.
Yeah, not rural America, right? You hardly hear anything about rural America.
Just ask the director. Do you know why the Capitol building is on the hill?
History lesson time.
Overlook the executive branch. You know why Article 1 of the Constitution talks about the legislative functions? It's because our founders thought that the legislative branch was preeminent and was supposed to stop the tyranny of the executive, the reason that our founders fought the revolution, to get away from a king. And
yep, right there. And something that our government leaders need to learn and realize is they're becoming extremely tyrannical to the point to where a lot of the people here in the United States are leaning towards a civil war. Like, there's been talk about it all over. And it's because of the fact that people are getting tired of the way our state representatives aren't doing anything. They're selling land off to other countries. They're, letting criminals and everyone else out of jail. They're, doing all sorts of stuff that, they shouldn't be doing, which is just angering the people even more. Slowly going up until it literally boils over the top. Honestly, that seems like what it's the Democratic plan. I mean, look at Chicago. Poor Chicago.
Do you know why June 12/15 is?
Here it is.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. June 15th, 12/15. It's when the Magna Carta was signed.
I was going to guess that, but I didn't want to
No,
get
it's
it
a
wrong.
good guess. And actually it was signed in Windsor, and I'm from Windsor, Colorado, and I don't see any area of Windsor, Colorado where it could have been signed. But it was signed, and it was really the beginning of holding the executive, in this case the monarchy, responsible
Yeah.
for its actions. And what I see
Now, the reason for that is because every single country that's ever sat there and said, hey, we're rich, we're more important than you, the poor people rose up and fought and took that shit back. That is why our forefathers set our amendments, our articles, our laws, and everything else the way they did. Because they understood. They ran from a tyrannical government, a king. They were taxed beyond belief. Taxation is theft, which is another reason why the IRS just needs to go, because, our tax dollars are not being used what it's for. And, no one understands the basic history of America. Like, we became what we became, not just because, we're the best of the best of the best. No, we became what we became because we came together for multiple different ideas and differences and everything. We came together. Instead of being separate, we united, right? And that right there is our strength, is being united. And this right here, with what's everything's going on in the government and Congress and everything, it's divided us. This is the worst our division has ever been. Like, ever. And that's a problem.
From ATF, too often, and I've already told you, I think it has an important and valuable role. But what I see too often
Not anymore.
is ATF taking a legislative function and running with it. And that's what scares me about ATF and where this administration, and I don't think there's any doubt that this administration is more pro-gun control than the past administration, or that the Democrats are more
But gun control don't work, does it?
than Republicans.
Los
But
Angeles,
when you take a legislative
Chicago,
function
New York,
and you, by rule,
Washington, D.C.
go forward and usurp our authority. Now, we aren't going to get it right every time, and we're not going to do things very quickly. Our founders set this whole system up so that we wouldn't do things very quickly, that we would do things in a measured way. But the fact that when we pass a law, we have a consensus in this country, and when you pass a rule, you don't. And that's the difference. And if we don't get the American people on board with where we want to go in terms of violence in this country, we suffer. And I'll give you two examples that concern me. One is the suppressor, the ability to make sure that individuals can purchase suppressors and use
The fact that they outlaw suppressors and their reasoning for it is kind of ridiculous. All for the simple fact of the matter is, there's very, very rare chances or even times that crimes have ever been committed with guns that had silencers on them. Like, very rare. Like, I understand back in the day, considering, assassins use, like, silencers, but in all actuality, it's just better on people's ears, and, it helps with the reverberation, because if you never shot a gun, depending on the gun, there's some good concussion coming out of there, because, it's a mini explosion inside, right? Well, a suppressor kind of helps with that. Makes it to the point to where you don't even need ear pros on. And in all honesty, a suppressor doesn't make a bullet more deadly. actually, if you actually look at it, most bullets are actually slowed down to the point to where it's still effective, but not as effective if it were to be without the silencer. The only thing it makes it harder to hear, which I mean I can understand, but with today's technology and everything else that they got, there's no excuse. Because I mean, there's a dude in Texas who killed an entire family, and they still haven't found him. And he used an unsilenced weapon, an AR style 223, because it's their bunch of BS that they're trying to spread. So my point being is, it's the person that you should worry about. It's the people, but at the same time, regulating an item and not allowing people to buy it just shows that the government is afraid of the people, because they go, oh shit, we keep doing bad stuff that they keep getting pissed off about, and we don't want them to have this, which is why they want to get rid of guns, body armor, the means of protection, meaning you can't defend yourself if you're assaulted. Because there's a lot of states to the point to where if you are being assaulted by somebody, it doesn't matter what the reason is. If you defend yourself, you're more likely the one who's going to go to jail.
Same e-filing system that has been set up has been
Which is a registry, and that shouldn't be allowed.
Not you, but slow walked by your agency for more than a decade now. And it's the bureaucrats in your agency that have a concern about suppressors. I can tell you story after story of constituents who have a son or daughter who has a hearing disability, and those suppressors are so valuable to those kids to be able to enjoy shooting sports. Over and over, I hear about the value of suppressors and how just frustrating it is that the same old paperwork has to be filled out, and the time is.
It's the same thing for buying a gun. Like it over and over. I've bought so many guns. I think I have about 9, 10 guns. Okay, and I've bought more than that. So the simple fact of the matter is, it's the same process. You go in, you look at the gun you want, you go, this is the one I want. You then fill out the form, and you have to put your name, your address, you have to have an up-to-date ID, you have to have all this stuff. You go through a federal background check, meaning the FBI and all of them, they look at your SSI number, they look at if you've had any kind of priors or any kind of violent offenses of any kind, and then they say yes or no. The process, depending on, how many guns you buy a year, or like certain kind of things you do or whatever, the process is pretty quick. For me, it takes about 20, 30 minutes. And that's from filling it out to done. You know what I mean? It's really quick. The processing is really quick. The filling out the paperwork, even though it's still the same thing, I highly suggest you read it, because recently they did add a few things to the newest one. So it's the same paperwork. That's why, like, all these gun control nuts who are always like, oh, we need to make it harder. We need to. No, you don't. Like, you literally go in, you fill out paperwork, and it's the same paperwork every time. Go and buy a gun. If you've never bought a gun and you have no idea, go and buy a gun. Go through the process. It is not an easy process, but it's not hard either. It's just more annoying. That's all it is.
Wasted.
Especially if, like, you've done it before. All that information should be the same, minus maybe an address if you moved. You know what I mean?
Enacted concern me, and I'm going to give you the remainder of my time.
And in my opinion, Chicago is proof enough that gun control don't work.
You have to acknowledge that the legislative branch has a function, and the executive branch, in fact, I guess I'm not going to give you much time. Montesquieu, I'll give you time to respond.
We are in agreement about the roles of those two branches. The legislature, Congress writes the laws, and we have to act within the language of the laws that Congress writes. There's, of course, a third branch that is responsible when cases are brought about saying whether we got it right or whether we did something that we weren't supposed to do, and what the laws of Congress is, what they mean. And that's, of course, the judiciary.
I thank the director for his response, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
The first case on the stabilizing race that
Yeah. So that's it for this. You know, kind of funny. Ken Buck gives the ATF director a history lesson, which in my opinion that he should have known at least some of that information. But hey, it's whatever. I'm not too surprised at the fact that the ATF director is a very, very uneducated person when it comes to guns. He said it himself. Um, Obviously not too up to date on American history. Most Americans aren't, which is very, very sad. And what? Like, share, subscribe, and keep spreading the word, guys. Check out Heavy Duty Country. I did a video on the last. The last video I did, it was talking about the ATF director and how he was unaware of one of his agents and taking pictures on their personal phone of information from an FFL. So, yeah, and hopefully Heavy Duty Country still has that video up. Go to his channel. It was from last year, I do believe. So yeah, ATF be acting a fool like always, which is why we need to abolish and get rid of them. Just done. So that's it for this video. I hope y'all liked it. Spread the word, guys. Catch you from the next one.